Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Comedy Classroom. I'm Connor, and I'm still trying to figure out how this intro goes. 3 episodes in, it's fine. Today, I am hanging out with one of my favorite improvisers, someone that I've gotten to play with for literally, like, a little over 4 years now.
4 years, yeah.
4 years now.
Yeah.
It's the wonderful Nathan Stein. Say it again so I don't interrupt you.
Hello, I'm Nathan.
Yeah. So we're gonna talk about some improv stuff. That's kind of mainly the past 2 guests I've had. I've had to be like, they're a director, they're an actor, they're a musician, they're an improviser, but you just kind of been like specializing in the improv.
Mostly improv and music.
Improv and music, yes.
And psychology.
That's true. You've been doing
those
the music
are the 3 for me.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
How have you been?
I've been good. It's been it's been a crazy couple months.
Yeah?
Because I graduated, right?
Right. Yes.
In April. And so it's been just kind of, I was supposed to graduate in April, and I did. But it wasn't. I don't think I actually handed in my last assignment till like the beginning of May.
Oh no.
It was like 2 weeks into May, and I was finally done. And I was just like, it was a little bit of a frazzled way to start off. The summer, but yeah.
No need to tell me about starting off the summer frazzled.
Yeah?
I started off the summer with like, guess I'm not graduating.
Oh, fair. Yep.
And then
all your friends.
And then the first half of the rest of that summer is me being like, I should find a job. And then an entire half of the summer passed, and I was like, I should still find a job.
Yeah. It's hard.
It's so hard.
So I started off the summer with a job that I had kind of been training for throughout this last semester, and I got in, and it just it didn't work out at all. So my first 2 months were just like, I don't know, I just have so many lingering feelings of what was this thing that I did? It's because you graduate from a degree in psychology, and then all of a sudden you realize
I gotta figure out what I want to do with this.
What do I actually want to do with this? I love psychology. I love the research side of it, and I love all this stuff. But I don't love the research side enough that I want to just do research for the rest of my life.
Right.
I want to do one of the.
It's not like a teaching degree where you graduate and you're like,
let's teach.
Let's teach.
Exactly. It's like, let's psychologize, and I don't know what that actually looks like.
Let's study the mind.
It's one of those things they sell you in the course. They're all like, "Oh, psychology's great. There's psychology in everything you do.
Yeah,
everything you do.
It's it's more like a communications degree.
Yeah, and you're like, wow, that's so awesome. Psychology really is in everything. This is such a great degree. It's preparing me for everything. And then you realize, on the other side, you're like, oh, it's actually prepared me for nothing. Everyone is in psychology, but to do all of these things that everyone is psychologizing in, you actually need training in all of these things.
Yeah.
Oh crap, what do I do?
Shoot.
So the job I did was more or less it was a mental health job, and I was working with an autistic boy.
Nice.
And nice, right?
Yeah.
And it's
I think you were telling me about that earlier.
It seems like a good job for a psych person.
Yeah.
Right? But I think what I was not prepared for was, and I think in most contexts for people that are working with autism, their job involves really formal training, because they're usually doing that work through an organization or something, and they get a little bit of training at least. And mine was an independent contract, so it was basically just me and the family. And so the family did their best to help me out, and then the other people that were already working with the boy did their best to kind of help me out a bit. But it's still, I just became so aware of how much my degree was a research degree and not like a practical working with autism degree.
Yeah.
It was a really sharp learning curve, and I was just very not prepared for anything that I was doing. And I think too, it was also like, it was my first experience working with anything like that. And this kid in particular, he was nonverbal. So I couldn't speak, and I love talking.
Yeah.
and you couldn't talk with him. And so it was, I just think at the end of the day, it wasn't a great fit for me. And so that ended up ending. But yeah, and then as that was ending, I had like a good 2-week period. It was longer than 2 weeks. It was almost like a month of like, okay, what am I doing now? Like,
yeah,
I have no idea. Like, what's next? I don't know. So I actually just started a job. I've done 2 weeks now, and that's with a homeless shelter in Surrey.
Oh, nice.
And I'm loving that. It's I don't know. It's crazy in its own way. But I think it's just one of those things where I just like have a real interest in it and a passion for those people, I guess. And it's a nice kind of combination of like caring and also like very practical, analytical kind of strategic stuff. My job essentially involves a lot of paperwork, so it's basically like sitting down with someone who's maybe lost all of their ID and they have no home, they have no family, like there's literally no one to vouch for them, and so like and you really realize how much like getting a job is contingent on actually having pieces of paper that tell people this person is a real person.
Yeah.
So a lot of my job then ends up sitting down and being like, okay, like where are you at? What do you need? You know, filling out an intake form and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then, okay, well there's stuff we can do for you. You can fill out a birth certificate application. We can do this, we can do that. So it's like, on the one hand, you're meeting this person where they're at, and you're just treating them like a human. Yeah. And, you know, showing them that like, hey, no, like you're worth helping. You're worth me taking time out of my day.
And it's sad how much that actually makes a difference.
Oh, it makes a huge difference, because a lot of people don't have that.
Yeah.
You know, and even people that aren't in a homeless situation can often, you know, oftentimes we don't have an opportunity to sit down with someone that actually like sees us as like human and just like doesn't see us as like an end to something. Right. You know, and so yeah, with this job it's kind of cool because you've got that balanced thing there, and then you've got some really practical steps to help these people with just like, okay, you literally just need help filling out a form. Yeah. And you don't have a hope of doing this on your own. Like, you know, maybe you've got like you're paralyzed and your hands don't work, so you can't write it down. You can't access the internet to download the form and print it out. You don't have anywhere to mail it. You don't have money to mail it. Like all of those sorts of things. And it's like, I'm literally there for 10 hours a day. Yeah. To just meet with people and help them out and stuff. And so that's been cool. And then you also get to learn a lot about like the infrastructure of this society we live in, and like, wow,
this is how things work.
All of these things I have in my wallet, I really take for granted. You know? Not just my bank card, but like, you know, my driver's license. Like, that opens a lot of doors, and a lot of these people don't have anything like that. It's tough. Yeah,
I have a friend in Calgary that works at the big drop-in center in downtown Calgary, and she always has stories to tell, and it's so interesting to hear just like the situations that you find helping people in.
Yeah, there's some like there's some really funny people that come in. Yeah, and they're just like. And there's a lot of really like lovable people that
obviously
like, they're just like it makes you wonder like how did life treat you so poorly? Like,
you just got dealt a really bad hand.
Yeah, and it's like but there's so many really interesting people to just chat with, and and everyone has a story. So getting to like, you know, hear some of those. That's I think a really special thing, getting to like hear people's stories, and then getting to see how people feel about their story too. Yeah, that's an interesting thing too.
Yeah,
Because some people will tell you like, oh man, I've been going through all of this stuff, and they're not even bitter about it.
Right.
They're just like, yeah, no, this is just where I'm at. It'd be great if you could help me, but like,
yeah,
that's where I'm at. And then there's other people that are really hurting a lot more.
Yeah.
That's an interesting.
Well, it's also been interesting, and I've had to deal with this myself, like during this past summer, where a lot of the time, I don't know if this is just me, but a lot of people have this sort of predisposition to just sort of be like, I'm doing good.
Yeah.
And then, but they don't really take the time during a bad time to take stock and be like, no,
yep,
I'm not having a good time.
Yeah. It's hard to be really like honest with yourself in that way. I think when I was finishing my degree this last semester, I was still working at Starbucks, and that's one of those jobs where you get asked that question all the time, right?
Yeah.
You're asking people, hey, how you doing? They're like, good, how are you? And I just default answer, oh, good.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like there's so many points when I was really not. I was just like stressed out of my mind.
And there are, if you're not doing fine, there are still ways to kind of communicate that without being, alarming or making it awkward.
Yeah. No, it's true. And I think one of the things I would try to do is like, well, I guess I had two default responses, I guess. It was either good or tired.
Yeah.
And
which is really, especially for students, that's kind of our two states.
Yep. It's like, oh, I'm okay. Oh no, I'm tired. That's all it is. And I'd say that a lot, and you find a lot of people say that too. Like when you have like 100 people coming through your till over the course of a day, and you've asked every single one, how are you doing? The amount of people that just say, oh, I'm tired. I need my coffee. Like maybe it's because
doesn't matter what time of day it is.
Oh no, people are very tired.
People are just always tired.
Yeah, it makes you wonder why.
It's a tiring world.
It is.
Like, especially like in like Vancouver area where you got like everything's expensive. You're trying to make money as best you can. For students, you got all these things bearing down on you, especially heading into another school year.
No, you're right. And then, like, the other thing, too, on top of that is that we want to have leisure time. Yeah. So, like, you're trying to get things done. Like I could have done school and been so much less exhausted if I had just cut out my personal life. If I hadn't made time for improv, if I had made time for music, for friends, for my girlfriend, like I would have been just so much more like awake, I think. Yeah. But also in a sense, like less so. I don't know, because it's like that leisure time, leisure time. It's so like energizing, but then to make time for that. And work and do school, or even just to do that in school. Yeah. And do it all well is like, it's a crazy balance.
As soon as it becomes like a block of your busy schedule, it starts to kind of lose its thing. Yeah. Like I saw this one guy kind of speaking about he was kind of like an organizational motivational speaker kind of thing. And he talked about the importance of making space. Yeah. And saying that if you have this very tight schedule and you don't have a whole lot of wiggle room, that's where you're going to get stressed.
No, that's true.
It doesn't matter if you have like a set hour and a half or 2 hours for relaxation. If you're not allowing those two hours to shrink or grow, it's not going to do you much good. So for example, like every now and then, if I know that I have like, if I gotta get to somewhere at 9, and I know that it'll take me like maybe 15 minutes, I'll still give myself like an extra half hour just to have a morning.
Yeah. No, it's true. I think actually too, like, that idea of space is such a big reason, I think, why everyone at 1107 would stick with it.
Yeah.
is because that bit of time to just show up and do improv
Yeah.
for an hour and a half, because we never stuck to an hour.
Yeah.
That time to just show up and for an hour and a half, it's like you can kind of justify it to yourself.
Yeah.
Because I find a lot of times like you can block out your free time and then it's like, oh, well, I need this for something else.
Yeah. This
behind.
is a skill that I'm developing.
Yeah. And we don't treat it that way, but with improv, since it's like an activity.
Yeah.
And it's something that's like, oh no, this is one of the things I do. You know, for a lot of us, I think we could kind of treat it like a class.
Yeah.
A lot of the time and be like, oh no, I do like, you know, I'm a comm major and I do all of my comm classes and I do improv, and you can block that time away and make it a priority.
For myself, I consider it like a key part of my theater degree.
Yeah.
Like I've learned a lot more like useful things about being out in the professional world as an actor from 1107.
Yeah.
A lot more than I have from acting classes. Not that I haven't enjoyed my acting classes, but it's just that 1107 from like doing on-campus shows to doing off-campus gigs to coordinating stuff.
Those off-campus shows and being the one booking them.
Yes.
That's like...
I've never felt like more of an adult.
I know, right?
When I've booked an improv show.
Did you have to like choose, okay, who's going, who can represent our program well?
Yeah.
You know, who hasn't gotten a chance to that I think...
The host of the event will be like, alright, so send us an invoice.
I know.
And I'll be like, alright. Guess I gotta learn how to make an invoice.
Look one up. I know. Try to. That was such a learning curve. It's like these professional skills that you're just like I walked away from coordinating, just being like, wow, I learned a lot.
Right.
Like there's so many things that went into that I had no idea were gonna come up.
I found it similar to my experience in stage managing.
Yeah, I bet.
Where it's just like there's so many moving parts that I have to be aware of, and I have to be aware of all of them.
Yeah.
And like it just becomes the sort of thing where you come out of it and you're like, I don't know if I did my job properly, but Lord knows I learned a lot. Exactly. Yeah. No, that's exactly what it is. I think it's interesting too. You mentioned that you've learned a lot more from improv. You've learned a lot of skills from doing improv that have really helped you in your theater degree. Yes. And I think that's really interesting because for me with psychology, I think that was part of the appeal of improv, was that it was like this performance thing, but I always saw so many tie-ins between it and my degree. Like they were just so closely related, and I think I think almost like I've learned I think more than my helping skills course that I took, the improv I think has been more useful in this current job with the homeless people. That's so interesting. And it's this funny thing. I remember my interview for that job. I mentioned that I had done improv. They asked me some question about how would you do making connections with people and going out and chatting to people, and it was just like so apparent to me. I was just like, oh well, like I've done making improv connections for a while, so like I've done improv for a while, so like I've got like 5 years of experience doing improv, and this is like super helpful for me. In my stage to screen class this past year, our instructor was like, as actors, our job is to connect with people. Yeah. Like whether it be your scene partner or the audience. Yep. Like he was like, if my job was to connect emotionally with a wall, I could do that. Yep. And that's what it's all about. And I think and I remember that interview because I talked about like being able to be spontaneous, make be aware of who you are, what you're presenting to someone else. Yeah. Have that kind of self-knowledge of what I look like in this situation. Be grounded in your character. Exactly. Even being aware of how like fidgets come off and stuff like that. How to like make your character more confident or less confident based on like little body movements, right? Body language. Like little things like that. And I talked a fair bit about that. And I think the response I got, and of course the other guy was just thinking off the top of his head too, the guy who was interviewing me. And I think the response I got was something to the effect of like, be careful,
because this is the toughest audience you'll ever have. These homeless people, and they can spot when you're faking, when you're just playing a character.
Yeah.
And I remember like walking away and being like, that is wise, but there's something about it that didn't sit well with me, where I was just like, I don't know if I communicated it exactly like what improv does. Because I think improv, in contrast to a lot of those other performing arts, like there's the idea. Keith Johnston. Do you know Keith Johnston? He founded.
It sounds familiar.
He was the Loose Moose guy from Calgary.
Okay.
He started that up, and he wrote a book called Improv.
Yes, I did a paper on improv for theater history. So
Keith, he has this whole chapter in that book about masks, and it's essentially him talking about character, but improvising with masks and all that stuff. And it's interesting. I'm not going to talk a whole lot about what he had to think about it, but I think improv has this idea, since every scene, like especially if you're doing short form improv, you know, from like scene to scene, you're a different person, and you have to come up with these new characters on the spot, right?
Right.
And I think what you learn from improv is you kind of learn to be in control of the masks that you wear, because you have to come up with them all the time, and you don't really get the opportunity to enter into a given mask as deeply as you do in theater. Right. Unless
you're doing like long form.
And
like an improvised soap opera kind of thing.
But I think you learn how to, you know, present yourself differently from like one second to another so quickly in improv.
Yes.
And I think like so much of like the training I got at theater sports when I did that was essentially like pushing you to be really genuine and be really honest about who you are, where you're at, and all that stuff. And it's like, I think to do improv, like you really have to have a solid base in who you are.
Yes.
And you have to be really genuine and really understand like, this is me and these are the masks that I can wear. And I think you start to really understand that relationship between yourself, who I am, and then what I'm presenting.
Yeah.
And there's a sociologist, I can't remember his name, but that whole idea of like the masks we present in different social situations is like a pretty foundational idea in sociology, and it's just like it's one of those things that I think improv really teaches you how to manage that. It just teaches you like, because I would assert that in every situation it's impossible not to wear a mask. It's impossible to let anybody see you for you. Like we want that. I think we crave that a lot, but it's really impossible to do that, because in any given situation, we put on a mask that's like, you know, and it's like, this is who I am, this is who I want you to see in this situation. Going to an interview, you feel very aware of that.
Yes.
That I am putting this thing on.
Yeah.
And there's a whole lot of things about me that you don't know, and that I don't want you to know right now. And then working with homeless people, you again have to put on a mask, because they can't know everything about you. You've got to have a fair bit of professional distance.
Yeah.
But it's like, what improv does is it essentially allows you to learn how to control your mask and not let it control you.
Right.
I think. Because you learn all of these different things of like, oh, well, that mask was not a very, or we can use the word character instead of a mask, I guess, but that character was not very effective because I wasn't doing this part of it. And the more you do it, you learn these little things you can do to make your characters as real and effective as possible. And you start learning that, like, okay, this character is something that I have control over. And it's not controlling me. And I think where we start to have problems with being inauthentic and stuff like that in real life, I think those problems a lot of the time stem from us not being aware that we're putting a mask on.
Right.
And so I'd say that for most people, being genuine is really just being aware that I am putting a mask on and I'm letting you see a side of me that I want you to see, or something. And that's really how to be genuine, and to be able to do that with different people and know what's an appropriate mask for which relationship. Like, because if we, I don't know if you've ever met, you probably have, but there's certain people that just like, it's like they refuse to filter, and it's just their heart is so on their sleeve.
Yeah.
And they can't hold it back with anybody, and they feel like there's no reason to, and so it's like they're like, it honestly seems like their innermost soul is just on display for everyone, and it's almost like a mark of pride that like, I am so real, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I'm so real and you can't take this away from me. It's almost like aggressive how open they are. And I just like, I think there's a level of that it's like, you know, you should maybe like, you don't have to be that way with everyone. You can adjust your way of interacting.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not that close to you.
No.
I don't know if you wanted to share that with me. I don't know if you should have, you know? Got a lot of those people at Starbucks that I'm like, you realize I'm just your barista, right? Like, like you just shared some like really weird stuff.
That almost makes it more of a human thing, because you're like, you don't have to treat me like a passerby. Like, you can treat me as in the job that I am in. Like, if I'm not going to talk to I wouldn't talk to a random person sitting on the bus stop the same way that I would if I were taking an order at McDonald's. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And that's okay.
Yeah. Well, and it's important, right? Yeah. And because those moments when you really do feel like you do need to break character and be like, you know what? I would never do this to anyone in your situation. Like, you are not the kind of person I just walk up and talk to.
Right. But that doesn't mean that you can't bring yourself into any context. Like I wouldn't. I'm sure I wouldn't take a McDonald's or Starbucks order the same way as anyone else, because I have my own mannerisms and my own way of interacting with people, regardless of the context.
Yeah. But it's those things where it's like, because you're aware of like your normal, and then you're aware of like all of these different ways that you can break your normal to do an improv scene. Yeah. When you're in real life and you're walking around, like, if there's a moment that calls for you to break your normal, you can.
It's just like, it's like the rules of any sort of creative thing, where as soon as you're more comfortable with the rules, the more freedom you have to break those rules.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, that's exactly what it is. And you start learning how to like, how to do that. And then with people, I think the way that improv relates to our real life is very, because it's a lot more complicated than just like, oh, I can put on a character and like, I walk into a Starbucks and I put on this character and nobody knows, you know. It's not like that. It's a lot more subtle. But like, if you didn't have that background in spontaneity, if you didn't learn how to be more malleable with who you are, that's a thing that I find we don't have a lot of in today's culture, is like malleability with ourselves. It's like, like we talk all about being open to different to difference, and like like we talk a lot about that, but then it's like we have to cling.
We're so scared of like contradicting ourselves.
Yeah. And it's like we try to put ourselves into boxes, like, oh, I'm this, and this.
And I will never stop being that.
And I will never change. And I think there's something wrong with that.
There is. It gives a very big obstacle to development as a person and growth.
Development and growth is exactly what it is. Yeah.
Like, I read things that I wrote on my blog, maybe 4 years ago, and I'm like, oh no.
Oh, God.
Why is this published?
Why did I put this on? Yeah.
Why did I decide that this was a good thought to put on the internet?
That's how I feel about some of my old songs that I used to write. And I listen to them and I'm like, Nathan, you were so sad. Like,
why did you decide that this sadness was worth putting into song form?
Exactly. Like, why? Why did you need? This is like hopeless, you know. And like, I look back on so many things. Like, I think, Because when I used to listen to more like emo and punk and metal music, I think I had a lot more of that idea of like, my struggle.
The angst.
I'm a white straight male and I have so much struggle in my life. Like,
have you heard that Bo Burnham song, Straight White Male?
Yeah, I have. It speaks to it, you know? It's just so accurate.
It's so wonderful.
I think in that stage of life, though, for me, I just like... I think all the music I was listening to was so angsty that I wanted so desperately to have something to be angsty about. Because I was like, how can I be creative if I don't have angst?
How can I be a poet if
Yeah.
I don't have things... if I don't have problems?
Yeah. And that's a thing that I think improv really worked on for me. It was like, creativity doesn't have to come from hurt.
No.
Like, some of my favorite music that I've made now has been since being with my girlfriend and like being happy.
Yeah.
Like I always used to think like, oh, happy songs just aren't real.
Yeah.
No one can be that happy.
Yeah.
And then it's like you get into a season of life and you're like, no, things are really good.
Yeah.
And I think
it's a mix of that. It's a mix of that sort of genuine sort of happiness mixed in with the fact that things aren't always this nice.
Yeah, and there's seasons.
Yeah.
Things change. Yeah. I think a big thing is a big part of like writing a good song that's happy or joyful or something is actually that really like honest, like this is coming straight from my life right now.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's what makes the difference between like an empty, hollow, feel good party song and like a really good one. Like if you're amped on life when you're writing a happy song, you know, it's probably going to be pretty good. And then if you're just like, I want something that people will dance to, and I love dance music. I love music that gets people moving.
Yeah.
But if your sole intention is to just write something
that makes people want to dance, it
generally I think will come off a little more hollow.
Yeah.
And even if your life's not in the greatest spot, I think even just like finding a way to like connect with the music, like if music that makes people dance, it makes people move, it makes people happy. Like if you connect with those sounds in a way that just like gets you stoked, you know, then I think even then there's something that doesn't like it doesn't necessarily matter how your life's going.
Yeah.
Like that'll still end up connecting with people.
Yeah. Because
your love for this.
And I love songs that are almost kind of like contrasting.
Yeah.
Like that, where it's like it's got such like a cool groove to it, but the lyrics are saying something a little different. Like have you heard Paramore's new album?
I have not.
It's really interesting because you can tell it's this very like kind of like 70s pop rock.
Sweet, yeah.
Kind of thing. And it's titled After Laughter.
Interesting.
And so it's got these very like kind of like boppy songs that they've written, but you hear the lyrics and you can tell that it's been written directly after a very, very hard time.
Yeah.
Like one of the more well-known songs from the album is called just Hard Times, and it's super fun.
Yeah. That's an interesting dichotomy.
Yeah.
Or a contradiction, a contrast. That's wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
And I love songs like that where I'm like, clearly you're trying to put this, and this is what I do is I'll write a song where I'm like, I'm not in the best place right now, but I'm gonna try and like I'm gonna do my best to see it in a way that
it's more positive.
That it's more positive.
Yeah.
Where it's like things are not good now.
Yeah.
But things can get better.
Totally. Yeah, just like finding ways to bring that optimism in. I also think it helps make your songs a lot more timeless.
Yes.
Like
absolutely.
Because I think a lot of the time, there's few things cringier than looking back on a song that you've written that's so hopeless. And you're like, dude.
And it's so stuck in the period in which you made it.
And you're just like, you look at it and you're like, dude,
I'm done
we
with
made
that.
it. We made it.
We're
through.
okay.
Why were you so stuck on the fact that things would never get better?
Yeah.
Like, and I think it's funny, like that one song I wrote for Portraits a few years ago, All the Little Things, that was written in a pretty sad time.
Yeah.
For me, but like, I think, like, out of all of the stuff I wrote in that period, that's the only one that I'll still really play.
I love that song.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And it's the only one I'll still really play, and I think it's because there's a sense in it of like, you know, it's like there's some kind of sense of like moving forward.
Yeah.
Even if it's not happy, even if it's not necessarily like, even if it hasn't really got there yet, there's a sense to it of being like, it's not so despairing as some of the other things that I wrote.
You're trying to move forward.
Yeah, and there's that bit of struggle, and so looking back on it, you're not like, dude, just, you're like, yeah, no, that was a hard time.
Yeah.
But like, you got through,
it's like,
and you knew you would, you know?
It's like one of the things that, when we were doing Cover of Life, one of the things that
was a great play.
Yeah, I'm very glad that I got to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And huge props to all of the 90%, the 80% or 90% female cast that I got to do it with. Yeah. And one of the big things that our director would tell us, especially Joelle, is it's more impactful to try not to cry than it is to cry on stage. If the audience sees that you're trying not to cry, that will make them cry.
That's fascinating, actually.
Because you're so deeply impacted by this person that's trying to hold it together when, like, everything has gone wrong.
Huh.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like, I also think of, have you seen Community?
Yep.
Yeah. So the part, slight spoilers, where Troy is actually finally leaving on his boat trip,
so sad.
and Abed's goodbye to him, where he's like, he's still putting things in kind of his pretend thing, but then he's like, I've given your clone a little bit of seagull DNA, so that you have a natural compass. He's like, why? He's like, so that eventually you'll come home.
Yeah.
And like, just the fact that this character who is usually just doing fine, as far as you can tell, and he just lets out that little bit of information that he's not doing great.
Yeah. Is being able, there's such like a pearl of wisdom in there, being able to like acknowledge when things are not fine.
Yeah.
We've talked a little bit about that.
A little bit.
Yeah. It's huge.
I wrote a whole blog post about this past summer.
Yeah.
And I told this story about in my second year, I was doing when I was doing 24-hour theater.
Yeah.
My first year experience of 24-hour theater was a lot of fun. Like, I loved the play that I got to do, loved the people that I got to work with.
Yeah.
It was great. Second year, loved the people that I was doing it with. Wasn't super excited about the script, which I don't really feel bad saying because it was written over the course of an evening.
Fair.
And just didn't really connect with my character a whole lot.
Yeah.
As well as the fact that that whole day that we were rehearsing, I was super sick.
Yeah.
I just did not feel up to my best. And so we got through that whole day, and we did the show, and it was fine. And I walked around campus, hung out with a few people in the Fraser Lounge, and people would be like, how'd that go? And I was like, it was good. It was fun, you know? And then as I kind of went, it took me a little bit more and more energy to say it was good, until I eventually was like, you know what? I did not enjoy myself.
Yeah.
And as soon as I acknowledged that, I felt way better.
Yeah, I bet that was super freeing.
It was. Just to be like, just because it's an event that I would enjoy, like it has all the elements.
Yeah, it's got all the people, it's got all the, like, you're doing something you love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there were just certain parts of it that I did not enjoy. And that kind of ruined the day for me. But I'm okay with that. Because there will be a next one.
There will be another one for sure.
Yeah.
That's an interesting thing too. And I think that idea of being able to like just like recognize where you're at is really important. We like that was actually one thing I did take from my helping skills course that I did, is like how to just like take a moment and be able to like summarize, in a word where you're at, and be able to just say like this is how I feel right now in this moment. And I think that was a thing when I was coordinating 1107. That was a thing I tried to kind of bring over a little bit, and every now and again replace our intros like, hey, name your major and what fruit would you be, and just like I tried a few times to replace that kind of silly last question with just like, and how do you feel right now? In one word, what's your feeling?
Yeah.
And I thought that was fascinating as an experiment with a group of comedians, but also I think it was, I think it actually ended up having, I think it ended up yielding a lot of fruit.
And I think it just slightly helped build the community a little bit more, just because everyone acknowledged that like in this space, you are able to say, I'm tired or stressed or actually doing good.
Yeah. I'm pumped, and it helped people, I think, realize that like at any given moment with a group of people, we're all coming from somewhere different, and we're all coming from like we all have a different perspective, and we all have a different place that we're at, and we can still move forward and improvise even if we're not all pumped. And like and that's okay. And I thought that was really cool. And then I also think it helps people be just a little more vulnerable, which I think is really important in improv. Because a lot of time we're like, we do comedy, we want everyone to think we're funny. And that becomes our focus for the entire time that we're there, is like, people think I'm funny, just think I'm funny, would you? And then like that just ends up being so damaging to both the improv and also to you, because you start like overcompensating, and you start and ultimately people can see through it. They don't laugh at you, and you leave and you just feel awful because you're like, no one thought I was funny and I really wanted them to, whereas if you just can like stop yourself for a moment and be really honest about like, this is where I'm at, I'm exhausted. The last improv show that I did was downtown with what do they call it again? Super Scene.
Oh yeah.
It was a super scene, and I literally spent that entire day, right up until I left, starting and finishing my take-home exam for human neuropsychology.
Oh yeah.
And neuropsych was a super hard course, and this exam I was not prepared for, and I wrote the entire thing in one day and then went and did an improv show.
Oof.
I was exhausted.
Yeah.
It was not my best work as an improviser, but I still think I was able to, just because I think I was able to recognize where I was coming from. And be kind of honest with myself about that. I think that helped me to actually like get through it and still support my scene partners.
Well, I've had very similar things like hosting shows this past year. Like during the run of both Cover of Life and comedy, like for Comedy of Errors, like Emmett and I agreed, we used your guest hosting idea to pretty much give either of us a break, for either of the weeks. But the first week of Comedy of Errors, I was hosting, and we did. So we had. I remember I recorded a YouTube series with Emmett playing a game, and then we went into campus. It was high school night. So we sit down, have pizza with a bunch of high school kids, then do the show, and it's a very high energy show. And then after that, we started getting ready for 1107.
That's a long day.
It was a long day of a lot of different sorts of performance.
Yeah.
And before going into the 1107, I was just like, I gotta use this tired energy. I just gotta be aware of the fact that whatever improv I'm gonna be doing tonight, it's gonna be tired improv.
Yep. And sometimes that's okay.
Sometimes it can be very entertaining.
Well, and what's funny too, right, is in improv, since it's all made up on the spot, there's almost a freedom sometimes to not be funny.
Right.
And it's okay. I think my two favorite improv scenes were both actually ended up being serious.
Yeah.
Like there's that one that Tristan did. Do you remember that long form?
When he was Death.
He played the character Death.
Ah, that was amazing.
Like the Grim Reaper. And it was this weird little portrait into this like this guy had died. I think Corbin had died or something. And Death, like it was almost like a, you know, like Ghost of Christmas Past kind of thing too, where it was like helping this guy like see his life and stuff, and it was just like, and honestly,
what show was that?
I don't even remember. It was in the long form half at the end of like.
Was that a Christmas show? I think that was a Christmas show.
It might have been.
That might have been.
Is that Oh Ho Ho Holy Night?
Maybe. Just looking at the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was.
It might have been right before.
Yeah, because that was right before kind of Alaska.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was there.
Because it was in the weird thrust stage.
It was, but it was this crazy thing, and I think that was born out of the tired improv moment, right? Because I think because it would have been Andrew, Karina, Corbin, and Tristan, if I remember correctly, and I think it might have been Corbin. He made like a weird offer at the start that ended up with him dying. And it was just like like you've got like,
oh no, a character has died.
And it was one of those long form things. It was going to be like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And like I think it was just swipes and taps, and it was like, oh no, he's dead right away. And then Tristan just came in and saved the day.
Yeah.
By being like, okay, this could end up being really terrible.
Yeah.
But how can we kind of salvage this and work with the fact that the character is dead?
Yeah.
And he just came in and he said, I'm Death. And all of a sudden it was like, I was like the coordinator at the time. I was like, this is simultaneously like terrifying. This could go so badly, but also
so intriguing.
Keep going, Tristan. This is fascinating. I'm so curious.
It's kind of like that scene. Have you seen Whiplash?
No, I haven't.
Okay. So, this isn't really a huge spoiler, but it is the scene at the end.
Yeah.
Where the two characters, so J.K. Simmons' character and Miles Teller's character, they've had kind of this very difficult character dynamic.
Yep.
And then there's a scene at the end where they've kind of had their big bout against each other. And, like...
Yeah.
Because, like, J.K. Simmons' character has kind of pulled a couple sneaky moves that really screw over Miles' character. Yeah. And then there's this part where Miles starts doing something completely different like on the drums, and he's like not kind of going to as regularly scheduled programming, but JK's character is like, okay, this is different, but let's see where we can go with it. And so he kind of like starts pressing him on and is like, yes, good, a little bit more. And it's this really interesting thing where you're like, I don't know what's happening here, but I think I like it.
Yeah. There's a lot of those moments in improv where it's just like...
I'm so glad we've roped back around to improv.
I know.
I was like starting out the podcast with psychology.
I know.
And working with homeless people, and then dipping into improv, and then out into music and then... But it's been good.
I think my other favorite scene was a similar one, and I think it was almost incredible in the sense that it was in a workshop. And this one might be my favorite of all time. But it was in a workshop, so there wasn't really an audience to see it. Which is both sad and also kind of like, no, it's this like special moment that like us who were there actually got to kind of cherish. But I think it was Shay and Dan and a couple other people, and it was one of those scenes, and I don't think I think again with it, I don't think the intention was for it to not be funny,
right?
But it's just kind of where it went, and it ended up being like Shay was coming home. It was like estranged daughter and parents kind of thing.
Oh, I feel like I remember this.
I think you were there. I'm trying to remember if you were in it though.
I can't remember.
I don't think so, but it was like there was mom and dad, and Shay hadn't been home in years. She had like, run away or something, and she was coming home for dinner, and the parents and the parents they just committed like all four of these people in this scene just like got where their characters would be at,
right,
and just played it,
yeah,
and they weren't worried about making jokes, and so the parents started playing totally nervous and like they were in this space of like just wanting to make such a good impression on their daughter again,
right,
and be like we're cool, we're chill,
yeah,
like please don't leave again,
yeah,
we'd love to be in
and
your
that's
life.
such a like at the beginning of the scene that's such a tonal U-turn.
Oh, it was nuts, and because like we're just like watching it and we're like, this is interesting, when's it gonna get funny, and eventually like you realize, oh no,
it's not supposed to be.
And then like Shay comes home and it's all kind of like tense and like and she's got Dan, and Dan's playing her boyfriend, and Dan's he's really the only comic relief,
right,
in that he's just this like awkward like like goofy like just trying so hard to be liked by these parents and be like, hey, I'm likable and things, and they're just like and yet the tone just stayed tense, and so he would like kind of like try and like and it ended up being this like beautiful like I don't know if it ended up having a reconciliation at the end. I don't know if it actually if all of the tension resolved, but like it ended and it was just this like it was a perfect drama, like a perfectly self-contained drama, and it was like, and it had all been thought up on the spot, and I was just like,
those like
that's beautiful.
Those like suddenly kind of dramatic like touching scenes that happen in improv are some of my favorites. We're going a little long, but I love this conversation. But I remember there was one it was The Kind Alaskan, where my character sits down with Cassie's character, and there's this whole thing where like our friendship has kind of severed just because of past stuff, and we're just sitting on the floor talking, and so many things have happened, but we're just sitting on the floor not looking at each other but just talking. It's easily one of my favorite improv moments.
The Kind Alaskan was a good show.
It was a really good show.
It was. I don't know why.
I don't know how, because it was based on a sport, which does not usually work out for us.
Was it like tennis?
Yes, it was tennis, which I think is one of the few sports that actually works well in improv.
Actually, speaking of tennis, I think my third favorite improv scene might have been from this last year. And I think Ari and Shay and Joelle.
It was more outrageous.
And it had tennis. And it was
Ari was like flirting with Joelle.
It was so funny.
15, love.
It was so dumb. It was so good.
It's so weird how those things work out. Because every time we like ask for an activity and someone says a sport, I'm like, no. No.
I know. But sometimes they work out really funny. Like there's a gibberish scene. I think it was in the senior show. Shay and I's senior show, we were in gibberish, and she had me guessing a tetherball.
Oh.
And so we were like miming it, and so she starts doing like, and then I started like playing back and like knocking it back, and then at one point she hits it, and I just like mime getting hit in the face and falling over. And it was this moment of like, because it's a guessing game, there's this moment like, oh yeah, he gets it. And also like that
was really funny.
And it was just like, every now and again, those like sports moments just work.
That's crazy. Well, I feel like we could probably talk for another solid hour.
Let's do this again.
I'm down. Season 2.
Season 2. All right.
Chances are by then I'll also have graduated.
Yeah,
so,
that'd be great. And maybe you'll have like solidified your intro.
Maybe I'll act. I mean, yeah. I don't know if I want to.
The way it is.
I don't know if I want to solidify my intro. Like, I have...
Keep it open to growth and development.
Yeah, exactly. I have a small amount of groundedness where I'm like, welcome to Comedy Classroom.
Yeah.
And that's it.
It's good.
Everything else I can play around with.
It's true. And sometimes that room for play is important.
Yeah. I have the same thing for my outro.
Yep.
Which I should probably do now.
Probably. Go for it.
Yeah. So, thank you guys very much for watching. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
It's been too long since we last talked.
It really has.
And
we don't even live that far away.
We really don't.
It's like a 10-minute drive.
Yeah.
And I was still late.
I mean, whatever. It's fine. But yeah, this was a good solid episode.
Thanks.
It went a lot of places, but they were all good places.
You never know where you're gonna go.
Yeah. So
it's good.
Yeah. Thanks again for listening. If you want to keep up with later developments in the podcast, you can follow me on my social medias, which now that I've checked since the last episode, I can be more confident in. Both my Instagram and my Twitter for Comedy Classroom are TallLankyGuy96. That's TA, 3 L's, and then Anki Guy. I don't know why I explained it that way.
Anki Guy.
But every time I type it out, I'm like, wow, that is 3 L's in a row.
A lot of L's. That's awesome.
But that's what it is. And other than that, if you're friends with me on Facebook, I'll be posting stuff on that too.
Cool.
So, well, thanks for being here, and I'll see you next class.